Good evening, everybody. My name is Simon. I got everything set up here. So I'm going to talk about one of the wisdoms or one of the chapters in this book. It's called the 38 Wisdoms. And I found out about this book in 2019, and I forgot the abbot's name, but he came to me and he's like, you should really read this book. So I didn't know how to interpret that, but he said that you could do anything with this book. You can run a business. It teaches you how to raise your, like literally everything is in this book. And I was going to talk about the first wisdom, which is don't associate with fools. But so here's a phrase. Does anybody want to read this? Anybody volunteer? Okay, oh, you can't see it. Oh, okay. Well, that leaves me then. You can see it? Okay. Gentleman with the bionic.
In the future will be a cosmic religion. It should transcend a personal God and avoid dogma and theology. Covering both the natural and the spiritual, it should be based on a religious sense arising from the experience of all things, natural and spiritual, as a meaningful unity. Buddhism answers this description.
Excellent. Thanks, Kevin. So does anybody want to take a guess of who said this? Yeah. I know you know, yeah. Anybody want to take a guess? Just take a guess. Okay. Another one. Okay. Okay, yeah. So Nat's right. So it was Albert Einstein said this. It was kind of interesting because one of the things that stands out here is like dogma. It's a like what I found out about my experience of Buddhism is that they don't preach anything to you in the sense of that this is that whatever you believe in is wrong, which was a kind of a challenge that I had with some religions, that if you don't do this, you're going to go, this is what it is. Learn from your own personal experience. We meditate, and whatever comes out is your own personal experience. You feel it. You don't have to listen to somebody else telling you what you should feel. So I was going to talk about 5 topics. I was going to talk a little bit about my journey. A few years ago, it was a couple years ago, I was talking to B, and I said it would be a really good idea to have people, because we didn't have a monk every single Wednesday. So I thought it would be a good idea to have people kind of talk about their own experiences. And sometimes we had some of the monks actually talked about their own experiences, which was very enlightening, like why they became a monk. And then what we started doing is we had individuals who've been here for a while kind of talk about their experiences. Everybody's got their own story, And I feel like this is a safe place. I know most of you people here that, and you probably already know my story. So I was going to talk a little bit about that. And then I talked a little bit about the 38 wisdoms. One of the goals, by the way, for this year, Venerable Weechak, our abbot, was saying, in January, he said, set some goals, like that you want to try to accomplish by the end of the year. And one of the goals that I had was, I want to do, a couple of Dharma talks, So I only did one, so this is my second one, so I can check it off, as my 2025 goal. So I was going to talk a little bit about, the wisdoms in general, and then focus in on this don't associate with fools, and then kind of wrap it up with some resources. I mean, obviously, B talked about one app. There's some others as well. And then if we have any time, maybe bring up some questions. Any kind of questions that you think are relevant would be good. So my journey really started in 2018, maybe a little bit sooner. I was trying to meditate maybe 2016, 2017. And it was actually started before that. My father passed away in 2013. And I talked to him every day. He was like my mentor. He was an engineer, did very well, came with nothing, lived all over the world, spoke Russian, spoke, German. He knew something about everything, And he passed away from a stroke in 2013. And it was interesting because he he always said things like, he predicted things, like things that are happening now, he predicted in 2005. Like, he was the smartest man I've ever known. And he lived in the Soviet Union for like 5 years. And so it was kind of, he gave me a very interesting perspective of what the Soviet Union was like, you know. But he always said, he had a very religious name. Like, my background is Indian, my parents are Indian, and Hindu beliefs, you know, is what they believe in. And so he had one of the most religious names. His name was Krishna, which is like, you can't have a more religious name than Krishna, really, for Hindus. Yeah, thanks. So, the interesting thing is that his long story short, but his mother passed away when he was 4 years old. So he was really raised by his father. And he told me about how because they have a different view of karma over there. They actually think it can be transferred, at least some of these people, that if you hang around bad people, or if they have bad things have happened to them, like bad luck, it'll go to them. So a lot of his friends' moms would say, oh, don't associate with Krishna because his mother passed away. And he said, yeah, I was really like cruel when he told me all these kind of things. And so he was like anti-religion. But one thing that he told me was, he said, if there's the only thing that I really believe in is Buddhist scriptures. Like, it was shocking. This is a long time ago. I was a little kid, you know, he was telling me this. The only thing, and he meditates. That's the other thing. But everything else, like, he did not want to go to a temple. Like, he was not he'd go there for the food, you know, and socialize, but nothing for, like, you know, for the spiritual, like, teachings or anything like that. So I was kind of going through that. And then I also was, you know, I don't know if it's mid-life crisis, I'm not sure what it was, but I just felt like things, you know, I was happily, I mean, I'm still married, happily married. But, you know, we have 2 kids, great kids, you know, doing really well now. But there's something that I felt like I was missing. So I can't put a finger on. I know what it is now, but I felt like I was, like, what is this world about? I was having those kind of, like, questions, you know. And I was really trying to seek a purpose. And I always had, like, a purpose. Okay, I'm going to raise my kids. I'm going to have a house, you know, build, you know, all this kind of stuff. But I felt like there was something else that was missing. You know, people talk about it, you know, but I really felt it, you know. And then I was going through a lot of, like, stress and things like that, you know, just work-related stress, and just, you know, just stress with everything, you know, like kids, business, all this kind of stuff. So I started meditating, and I started having back problems because I didn't know, you know, I didn't know the Dhammakaya method. So I was looking for a yoga studio, and I was calling, you know, different yoga places, and somehow I accidentally found this place. Now, B will say, and, you know, the monks will actually say there was no such thing as an accident. Everything happens for a reason. I was looking around trying to find a yoga studio, and I called this number, and I was talking to Pi Ying. And I was saying, you know, like, I don't know if you remember Pi when I called. No, you don't remember. But I was calling, and I was like, well, what's the rates? You know, like, we're gonna, all those kind of things. Just show up. We're gonna have a you know, we'll teach you on Wednesday. You know, come Wednesday. So I came here on a Wednesday, just like many people came here. And I'm like, wow, this is amazing. You know, there's the statue of Buddha everywhere, and I didn't realize it was a temple. And I was kind of a little bit worried because I thought it was going to be cultish. You know, I was like, oh my God, I got to be really careful. And, you know, my wife was kind of warning me about that. And I found out it's like, not at all. Like, they really, like, you can come or you don't. Like, it's really up to you, you know. And I started coming here. I started, you know, meeting people, and same people had a very similar journey as myself. And I started building those kind of friendships, and they've become, you know, some of my closest friends. And it really kind of helped me on this path of self-discovery, and kind of gave me a purpose, because our purpose generally is to get the world to meditate, you know, world peace through inner peace. I believe that, you know, so that's kind of what my story is. So I'm going to transition over to the, are there any questions, by the way? I don't know if there are any questions. Um,
Oh, I have.
yeah.
I remember when you came and your very first experience, a big experience, because you had only been coming maybe 2 or 3 weeks, and then we had Katina.
Oh, yeah.
You want to talk about that?
Yeah.
I saw the look on your face.
Yes.
I'm always very interested.
I mean, are you sure you want me to tell this story? Okay. All right, I'll tell it. She brought it up. I'll tell the story. So we had Katina, and I'm used to the group like this. It's very overwhelming, you know, and there's a lot of Thai people. I love, like, Thai people are amazing. They're really nice people. Like, there's just a lot. There was a lot of them, and we were all outside in, like, the bamboo. I think it was bamboo, like, I don't know what it is, like mat. It's like a really long mat. All these people came, and I mean, it was like I got like bumped off the mat. Like literally, like they just came in. They're all like dressed to the nines. You know, like everyone was there, and it was almost like a show and tell kind of a thing. You know, like a meet. You know, the people haven't seen each other in a long time. It was like a big party. It was very overwhelming, and I got bumped off the mat. You know, and I'm like, I'm not doing this anymore. I don't know, somehow,
You're like,
this is not for me. I said, I am done. And somehow, B, I don't know if she saw me that day or she had this premonition. She calls me up and she's like, hey, I know you were overwhelmed. Give it one more chance. I'm like, I'm not sure if this is for me, you know. And she really like pulled me in. It's like, trust me on this, okay? Just come back on this is a unique thing. There's all these people that come in from all the other centers, and you never see them again, you know, like, and so I came back, and then I started getting, you know, I listened to more Dharma talks. I started coming on Sundays. I was going every Sunday and Wednesday at that time, and then I started experience. My meditation got better. You know, I was listening more. I mean, and my family started seeing changes. Like, you know, everybody started seeing changes, and I felt like it really, like, for self-improvement, it really improved a lot. I was glad I stayed here, and I've been coming here long enough since like 2017. I see a lot of people. They come in, they're really excited. They're like, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna meditate every day. I'm gonna go to Wednesday, and then they slowly. They're kind of gone. So what I suggest is you stick with it, you know, and just keep meditating. You're going to meet, you know, people. You're going to learn new things about yourself, but really try to stick with it. And if you haven't gone through, like, whatever your reasons are coming here for, like if they're similar to mine, or if it just was curiosity, you know, some people just come because they're curious, and they've always been meditating. But if you I pretty much, you know, I've lived long enough that I can tell you're going to run into some kind of challenge. And you have to have your energy bucket full to deal with those kind of challenges. Because if your energy bucket is low and you try to deal with, like, normal issues that are eventually going to happen to everybody, you know, it's going to be very, very difficult. And there's tons of distractions around to take you in a very dark path. You know, I'm just saying that. Not to sound preachy, but that's really, it can happen. I've seen it. Okay, so thanks for your question. The 38 Wisdoms book, Nat has told me this numerous times of, like, the history behind it, but I actually got a chance to actually see it in paper, you know, and it verified everything you said. I just couldn't remember the entire story that you told me, but I wrote it down. And it's based on the Mangala Sutta. And sutta is similar to Sanskrit sutra, which is string, means string of, like, typically knowledge. It's the discourse of blessings. I'm just going to read it here. The most popular and widely practiced discourse cherished by the Buddhists throughout the world. It's transcribed from 80 hours of recorded Dharma lectures given in Thai by his most venerable. Now, I'm going to try to pronounce this. Okay. Fraraj Bhavana Jarn. That's one word. That's his last name. Is that the right pronunciation? Okay, all right. He's the vice abbot of the Wat Phra Dhammakaya, and he gave it to the university students in Thailand that spanned over 10 years. So they took like just tons of transcribed text, right? And I think you were involved in that, right? Or was there some other people? There was like a team of people that took it and they condensed it down to this book. And they actually sell these books. It costs a lot of money to make this book. And for a donation of $10, which is basically the cost to print it, is what they typically go for, you know. So I highly recommend this. It's very condensed, like every single like wisdom. And we used to have like every, you know, one of the Dharma talks that we'd have is we would just talk about one of the wisdoms, and we'd go through like once a week, you know, so 38 weeks basically, you know, is what we used to do that. And we also had a Zoom session during the pandemic that where we would talk about this and kind of talk about our, you know, our interpretation, how it applies to real life. You can actually listen to it on the MindGem app, which, you know, which is kind of which I didn't realize, but it's actually in there. It made a lot of enhancements to the app. So I highly recommend it in there. Any questions before I go into the first wisdom? Hopefully.
Is there a cost for the app?
No, it's free. Yeah, it has a good question. It is free, and it's on Android and Apple, right? On both. So just go to the App Store. It's excellent. I was involved in the beginning of like them kind of developing it, but sadly I wasn't the one that adopted it. You know, I didn't start using it until recently, and I found it very powerful. But you can have, it has all the lectures, tons and tons of lectures in there. They're recorded in there. It's really fantastic, and it has a timer for meditation. Any other questions about the app? No? Okay, so one of the things is, how many people know fools? Okay, just about everybody knows somebody who's foolish. And it sounds kind of harsh. I know it sounds harsh, but the way the book kind of describes it is really, a fool is known by his actions. And the opposite of fool, which is a wise person, is known by his restraint. You know, so a lot of times, you know, like a fool just kind of behaves in a way that's a lot of times detrimental to themselves and others. You kind of know people, and everybody, like what I'm going to talk about here is almost like the gold standard. You know, so don't look at it and say, "Oh my God," and feel bad for yourself. You know, don't feel like that. But it kind of gives you a goal of what to aspire to. So and it really ties back to the right association. So how do you recognize a fool? There's 5 things. Cannot be identified by educational or social status. So you know, I don't know if it's a cultural thing and like my ancestral background or not, but like, you know, in Indian culture, like it just seemed like growing up in my family, like all my parents' friends were like doctors or something. It always, whatever their profession, it was like really signified who they were, you know? And, but I knew so many people that did well. They were professors, they were medical professionals, they were, you know, business people, and they made really bad life choices, like really bad life choices. And so it really talks about don't be misguided and think that somebody's you know, has a really fancy title that they're not a fool. They can't be a fool, you know. But some of the traits is that they're boastful, they're dishonest, ungrateful, easily angered by criticism, speaks fault of others, denies his own, sows disharmony. Like in a work group or something, it's always, you know, seems to be causing trouble. You know, they almost thrive on trouble. Uses harsh or careless words, and they don't have a sense of like remorse. You know, they don't have a sense of humility and moral restraint. Now, granted, you know, I tend to be critical of myself. You know, sometimes, and I look at that thing and I'm like, wow, there's this one thing I feel like I can be better. Again, this is like the gold standard. There's always, like, we're all trying to improve ourselves, right? And then they also believe in the wrong view. believes good and bad actions have no consequences. So they essentially don't believe in karma, you know. Denies afterlife, you know, whether it's heaven or hell, thinks generosity brings no benefit, becomes kind of greedy, never seems satiated, you know, they're just constantly looking for wealth, even though they might be very wealthy now. Shows no gratitude to parents, and arrogance and blindness to virtue, sees no need to honor the virtuous, you know, and they kind of like lose this humility, you know, and then believes enlightenment is impossible. They just don't, it's not achievable. And they just don't believe in faith. They don't believe in our purpose, essentially, and the human potential. Any questions? Anything? Hopefully this is not like boring. I mean, like it's some, I find it really interesting, but all right. So one of the things is you want to avoid fools at all costs. And sometimes you work with fools. I mean, you work with them and you can't avoid them. You know, maybe you're teaching at a university, you know, your job in a business, you have customers, clients, and there's basically like 5 things. You know, the wrong company leads to moral decline and ruin. Fools influence others towards like drugs, alcohol, and violence. And a lot of times, you know, I had a friend tell me, like, you tell me who your 5 closest friends are, and I can tell you everything about yourself, you know. And I can tell you with full confidence that just being here, I can tell no one's a fool here, you know. I think we're on the upper end. Well, somebody has issues with Nat, but I don't. Association with fools causes loss of credibility and misfortune. I mean, sometimes positively, I never really believed in this, but sometimes, you know, like, good energy brings good energy. Like, if you give out good energy, you know, you tend to get good energy. Not that you're seeking it, but if you give it out, it kind of naturally comes to you, is what my belief is. The only exception is when your intent is to help a fool without being influenced. When you walk with the blind, guard your own sight. Okay, so how do you insulate yourself from fools? Avoid all misbehavior, even the small ones. Like, sometimes the big problems stem from small things. Like, oh, I'm just going to take this little thing from the store. It's not. It's a piece of gum or whatever. Well, those little things add up to bigger things, you know. And so, like, just pay attention to those details. But I think when you meditate a lot, those kind of things, you automatically, it's hard to explain, but you already kind of feel that. It kind of becomes part of your virtues, you know. Practice generosity to overcome selfishness and greed. There's tons of opportunity here. And it doesn't always have to be money. It could be volunteering. Like for Katina, you know, B talked about volunteers. That's a sense of generosity right there. Absorb moral precepts, like the 5 precepts, right? No killing, no stealing, lying or sexual misconduct are intoxicants. Cultivate wisdom and mindfulness through meditation and dharma. We're all doing that today. Let go of past mistakes, like forgive yourself. Sometimes you're your own biggest, you know, critic. And treat them as lessons. Like, I went through a really difficult situation last September. I just stopped. I was so stressed out, you know, so many things, home projects, work, one of my oldest sons moved away, you know, all these kind of things, you know. And I just stopped sleeping. At first, I thought it was amazing because I'm like, I could do all this and live on very little sleep. But eventually, it caught up to me, and then I didn't realize this, but your body goes into like this fight or flight mode. You know, even though you could try to relax, it can't relax. And it took me a month or 2 to really get readjusted. And and a bunch of friends here really checked up on me, called me, and it really kind of helped me. And I got my meditation practice back on track and all that stuff. I couldn't meditate either. I usually could meditate no problem 30 minutes. I couldn't even meditate for 3 minutes. Everything fell off track. And the first thing that Venerable Nick, I don't know if you've ever had a chance to meet him, but he's an LPC, a licensed professional counselor. And I said, listen, I'm like, you're not gonna believe what happened. This is what happened. And he's like, and I was kind of worried. I was a little bit embarrassed to tell him because, you know, he's known me for a while and I meditate a lot. And he said, okay, put that beside you. What did you learn from that? Like, that's the first thing that came out of his mouth. And so kind of look at it that way, you know. Seek positive influences. There's tons of positive influences here. The monks, the nuns that are here, the Dharma talks. There's books. You know, I shared one of the books. You know, you can actually get a PDF of this like online for nothing. And so I highly recommend that. If you're among fools, maintain self-control and to have a positive influence. So if you're around fools, try to exude positive influence, you know, around them. And that could be like a sense of purpose too, you know. And so, so those are the things. Any questions, by the way? Anything you want to bring up? Anybody? Okay. All right. So some closing. Avoid, you know, bad company is the first step. So if you see trouble, you want to go walk away from trouble, right? Choose wide companions who uplift your heart. So one of the things that I was listening to a podcast, and the podcast, his name is Dr. Puff, Dr. Robert Puff. I've talked about him in one of my Dharma talks. But he always said that one way you could tell you're around the wrong people is when you leave, you feel like you're drained, you know? Like people that really, like, they're kind of bad influences, I feel like, oh my God, like you don't want to be really around them. They suck the energy out of them. The people that you do like, you feel uplifted, right? You feel like really good. And, you know, like a few weeks ago, a bunch of us went to see an NFC fight, you know? And I know it sounds good. Huh? IFC. Oh, UFC. NFC is something totally different. It's the first one I went to, you can't tell. But anyway, went there. I really enjoyed myself. Like it was like none of us drank. Like we were all drinking like iced teas, you know, but we were watching it and I've walked away. I felt really good. Like I was around my people, you know, we had a really good time. I don't know if maybe I sucked the energy out of you guys. I don't know, but I really felt good around them, you know, around all of them. So, protect your mind like a flame in the wind. I've heard Venerable Weechuk or Abbot say that before. Walk the path of virtue, mindfulness, and compassion. And Venerable Weechuk one time told me, he was like, you know, you just have compassion for these people. He goes, you can't avoid them, you know, just have compassion. And then here's some like resources. I know like the meditation center, like Wednesdays and Sundays. Now we have Fridays. The Mind Gem app is phenomenal. Highly, highly, highly recommend it. And then the Zoom calls, which there's more, but I've been going every Monday, and I'm here on Wednesday, so I don't go on Wednesdays, but Monday and Fridays I do Venerable Clint's. He has it set up like a late night, like a David Letterman kind of a late night with Jimmy Fallon kind of a vibe, you know. Yeah, he's got the lights in the back, you know. And so feel free to take pictures. I mean, the password is 072, but there's like 2 or 3 different Zoom IDs. But I'm on there. I'm on there on Wednesdays, on Fridays. So it's really, and then on Saturday he has one at 5:00. And then there's some other ones. I found out there's a Tuesday and a Thursday one, so I'm gonna try that one out. Sometimes they have issues with the Zoom link, so if you go on there, you'll get like an error. Yeah. So. But don't worry, it's not you. Oh, sorry.
What kind of calls are they? I mean, like, what are they?
Oh, they're like literally, it's like a Dharma talk. It's like just like having a monk here, and they have a meditation. So you meditate from your, you know, Zoom, and then there's a 30-minute Dharma talk. So 30 minutes meditation, 30 minutes Dharma talk. It's literally like being in a temple without having to drive here. Now, if you guys live here, obviously it's probably better to be here, you know, but like on Wednesday. But on the other days, like I like to get the Dharma like a few times a week. So on Monday and Friday, I'm at least 3 days, I'm getting some kind of like positive energy, you know. And he's actually, I visit LP Clint's one. He will stay on afterwards, you know, if you want to talk to him one-on-one, and he can do that. It's phenomenal. I started doing that over the last few weeks. And we were doing that during the pandemic. We did that a lot, you know, but now they've made it a regular thing. So I really highly recommend it.
Was it different month each time?
Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, except for Katina, like major holidays, Venerable Clint is on most of them. And then there's another monk, and I could not remember the name. But there's another one on Tuesday and Wednesday, on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And there's like a guy from Hawaii that's like listens. And there's no temples around where he is, so he's on there. There's like a bunch of people that you'll see, you know, on like, you know, you'll see the same people like on Wednesday, but you'll see me on Mondays and Fridays there. Sometimes I hide my camera on, sometimes I don't. Yeah. Pardon me?
Yes.
Yes, it is. Yeah, B mentioned that earlier. She rattled off some other ones too, so I'm gonna check that one out too. Yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
so that actually